May 14, 2014. This day, which initially started as an ordinary day for me, turned out to be an important day that affected my life from then on. I was in 8th grade, had come home from my lessons, and I was watching something on television. I don't remember what was it. Then suddenly the sound of the television was cut out, and I didn't understand the reason why. Then I reached out for the remote control, and that was when I realized I couldn't hear the clicking sound of the remote control either. And I understood the value of even the simplest sounds, like breathing, like writing on a paper, or clicking on the remote control, because they were all gone. It was the day I had sudden hearing loss in my left ear, and I lost a significant portion of my hearing. I would like here to note that I was born deaf in the right ear, so my left ear was so important for me, and losing it was challenging. Even though it was challenging, I was not aware of the seriousness of the situation, because I was thinking like, oh, it might be an infection, it probably is an infection, and it will go away in a few days. And we went to a doctor in the same day, and the doctor told me that there is no infection, you are suffering hearing loss, sudden hearing loss, and I was shocked. Then he prescribed me with Prednisone. He asked me if I had nausea or dizziness. Since I hadn't, we ruled out Meniere's and vertigo diseases, and I was in the club sudden hearing loss with unknown causes. Next morning when I woke up, I was better, I was hearing better, and I thought, okay, it is not as big deal as I think it is, because I can hear, We took an appointment from my doctor, a doctor whom we know, a doctor who had been taking care of me since I was 3 years old, and we went to see him. He told us to continue the process, and if any slightly thing happens, we should go to him right away. By the way, he suggested the hyperbaric oxygen therapy that I could try. But I was going better, I was getting better. On the 5th day of my sudden hearing loss, when I woke up, I had a really bad setback. And the setback was far more worse than the first sudden hearing loss, because, I was hopeful. I thought I was healing, and finding out that I was not again, it was devastating for me. We immediately went to my doctor again for the 3rd time in 5 days. We restarted medication to Prednisone, and besides Prednisone, I took a lot of vitamins. Day after day, the stress level increased, both in my parents and both in me, and we went to see a lot of doctors, and most of them told the same. You can take Prednisone, you can go to hyperbaric oxygen therapy. On the 7th day of my hearing loss, I started hyperbaric oxygen therapy. It is a special oxygen therapy technique where you spend your 2 hours in a chamber which contains pressured air with pure oxygen. You sit in a chamber with a mask on your face and breathe the air for like 1.5 hours. And in the first and last 15 minutes, the pressure is adjusted. In my first hyperbaric oxygen therapy, something unforeseen happened. As the pressure started to go up, I felt a pain in my ear, and I told the attendant that I was hurt, and the attendant told me that this pain was completely normal, and he instructed me to equalize the pressure in my middle ear and a Stichian tube. I followed their advice, but the pain persisted, but I remained in the chamber too. Nonetheless, I continued there and sitting and expecting to get better when I got out. But when I got out, I had a significant ringing in my ear, and I was worried about it, and we went to the nearest doctor, and there they told me that I had a barotrauma and my eardrum was bleeding, and the bleeding was causing the pain. We wouldn't know would my hearing have been normal if I hadn't had barotrauma, or would it remain bad. After this bad experience, I started experiencing tinnitus, which has been with me for 9 years now. Anyway, after this, we didn't continue to hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and I started taking a lot of vitamins such as B12, D3, alpha-lipoic acid, acetyl-L-carnitine, flagylenol, ginkgo biloba, blah 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 blah. I was taking a handful of pills every day, and this started to upset my stomach. Obviously, I was 14 years old. My hearing was getting better day by day with the help of the prednisone and vitamins. By the 20th day of the loss, we had lowered the dose of the prednisone again. Hearing remained the same for 2 or 4 days, and I was really happy. After 2 or 3 days of lowering the dose, I had the second setback, and that was even worse. And after the second setback, I was no longer hopeful as before. I became afraid to sleep because the fear of waking worse had taken over me. And prednisone is not a medication that you can take for your entire life. And the doctors we visited collectively suggested me to go to hyperbaric oxygen therapy again. They said you should give it another shot. I was hesitant and reluctant. Nevertheless, I did. This time, we made sure that my nose and my eustachian tube was entirely clear. Just like that, I received 20 sessions of hyperbaric. I was getting better day by day, but really didn't know the reason, whether it was because of the prednisone or because of the hyperbaric oxygen therapy or because of their combination. We didn't know, and we couldn't risk leaving one outside. By the 45th day, I was doing much better again. I had taken a considerable amount of prednisone, starting from 64 milligrams, along with numerous vitamins I listed before, and I completed 20 hyperbaric sessions, and I thought I healed again. And I was wrong again. This process repeated 2 or 3 times, 3 or 4 times. Going to hospital every day, seeing 2 or 3 doctors every day, and undergoing oxygen therapy. Everything felt so exhausted, and I started to feel like I was paddling in vain. But there was one person, one amazing doctor. He told me that we could achieve this together, and I want to emphasize that, as I couldn't hear back then, he was writing to me. As time passed by, this battle of getting better, healing, which we started with like an army, we're now just a handful of people. And the rest turned their back on me.
When the world turns its back on you, you turn your back on the world.
By the way, I was still continuing the cortisone medication, and since it was like, it has been like 50 days, yeah. It was overwhelming for my body. We also sought advice from endocrinologists, physical therapists, and gastroenterologists for alternative ways of healing, because the cortisone was disrupting my body. Throughout this process, my father was always there for me. Actually, he was the one who tried harder than anyone. And he was the one who came out with the idea of intratympanic ear injections. After this idea of his, we went to several doctors with the idea of intratympanic injections. They tried a 4 milligram of dexamethasone, and there was no noticeable improvements in my hearing. It was just painful. Continuing with the research and the consultations with my doctors, we decided to proceed with a higher dosage of intratympanic injections, and we decided on 64 milligrams. After the injection, within just 1 hour, my hearing got better and better and better, and it got to its previous stage. I had recovered. However, the pattern continued. I would get the injection, then get better, then get worse, get it better, then get worse. I was going to get, the injection was not sustainable for my entire life. Therefore, while it provided a huge hope for me, it was not the ultimate solution for us. Months had passed since the first day, and now it was August. This whole thing started in May. During this time, since it was a long process, maintaining a positive attitude and positive psychological state was really hard, was really challenging. I was really tired. Days changed after days, and we were exhausted from trying every possibility. We brought supplements from the United States, from the UK, we tried different medications, we tried trials, yet a lasting recovery remained elusive. The conversation with the doctors was shifted from how to recover this girl to how to operate this girl. The word recovery was no longer the case. It was put on dusty shelves. But all the struggle and watching people giving up on me, giving up on the idea of recovery and treatment was incredibly tough. Even in the situation the doctor I mentioned, the doctor who had been taking care of me since I was a child, even then he was sure about me. He was sure that I was going to get better. With him and with my father, we decided to try the oral corticosteroids again for the one last time. It was one last shot. This time, starting with a really high dosage, gradually tapering it down. A prolonged corticosteroid regime was started. It was like a final marathon for me. We began day 1, 80 milligrams. Day 2, day 3, day 4, until it stretched to a 180-day medication process. And we combined this process with vitamins again, with hyperbaric oxygen therapy again, and I'm starting to feel a positive attitude and of course hope. So long story short, no, actually long story long, here I am. I recovered, I'm here, I can hear. I'm now using a hearing aid, but I was using it before the sudden hearing loss, so it's not a bigger difference for me. I am happy with my aid and I love it. I got my life back. I went to high school. I was like this moon face because of the corticosteroid. Now I'm okay. And I wanted to post this video because I had a lot of moments where I lost my hope, and I had a lot of moments where people left me, abandoned me, and I want to show that it can happen. And you don't need to depend on people who are gonna let you down. This is all, I guess. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask in the comments, because I learned a lot of things from people living the same process. I would be happy to help too. And I guess this is all. I really talked a lot, but thank you. Stay strong, stay safe.